been astonishing, unprecedented. There are warnings this morning from businesses that even these measures, like the furlough scheme, are not going to be enough to provide support to people. There are calls this morning too for that furlough scheme to be extended beyond its official close in October, becoming tailored to the sectors of the economy that are being hardest hit by this. Do you think it would be right to bail out more jobs, more families, more people for longer? If your job is threatened, are you finding any luck anywhere looking for work, or is this where you find yourself turning to the benefit system and to things like universal credit? 7:06 is the time. Tony Wilson is the director for the Institute for Unemployment Studies. Welcome to the programme this morning, Tony. Your view, first of all, of the damage that the coronavirus is doing on jobs.
Well, I think it's very much as you say, Tom. I mean, I think this is going to be the most significant labour market downturn shock that we'll have faced since the 1980s. I think it's quite likely by the end of the year that unemployment will be above 4 million, and that will be the highest that it's ever been. But even already, during the lockdown, despite those measures to protect jobs, we've seen a number of people in paid employment falling by about 1 million. And this has particularly affected the self-employed as well, actually. So many people who are sole traders, seeing income dried up and often falling between the cracks of the various support schemes that are available. So we're not in a great place, I don't think, and I think it's likely to get worse in the next few months.
I guess my listeners can already anticipate where these jobs are likely to fall the hardest, but from your point of view, which sectors are going to be hardest hit and for how long?
Yeah. Well, so what we've seen now with the redundancies that are being announced is that these are particularly affecting retail, hospitality, and sectors related to aviation, travel, tourism, transport, and so on. And I think that's likely to continue. But there's a whole other story as well, which isn't about redundancies. It's about new hiring. It's about jobs being created. And actually, we're seeing a real depression in vacancies and hiring, which is across the economy. And it's in office work, in entry level, jobs in administration, in offices, in the service sector, in the whole parts of the economy. So a lot of that may not come through in redundancies, but of course, if people are losing their jobs and there aren't jobs to go to, then that creates a whole other set of problems. That makes the problems much, much worse too.
And I wonder too, for those individuals, of course, that everyone talks about the numbers, but actually there are people, there are families, there are whole livelihoods that are based on this. What's their chance for retraining to maybe go into another area of work if the downturn is going to be so huge, as you say, 4 million jobs lost?
Well, the government, when the Chancellor announced his plan for jobs, which was about a month ago now, actually, and it's flown by, there was quite a lot in there, which was about help to finding new jobs. So there was a lot of investment in employment services, in the one-to-one support to move them to find a new job, and also in sector-based retraining, so training for specific jobs in new sectors. So that's all welcome. But what there was less of last time out was measures to cushion the impact of these job losses now, so to try and keep more people in work for longer. And there was less about how we actually stimulate new job growth. So if people are out of work, I mean, it's an awful thing to happen. It's a terrible position to find yourself in. There is support available that will be coming on stream through Job Centre Plus, through employment services, through local services. I think that's going to take a few months to come on stream. But it's the lack of new jobs, I think, that's the worry at the moment.
Tony Wilson, thank you for your time. You're director of the Institute for Employment Studies. Let's move from the individual to the national. Dr. Gerard Lyons is Chief Economic Strategist at NetWealth, Senior Fellow at Policy Exchange, former economic advisor to Boris Johnson while he was Mayor of London. Welcome to the programme this morning, Dr. Lyons.
Good morning.
What impact is 4 million jobs lost going to have on the British economy?
Well, I think the key thing to stress is that the unemployment picture is going to very much depend on what is happening to the economy. And as we unlock the economy and as it starts to return to normal, many people will return to employment. So hopefully the figure will not reach as high as 4 million, but I completely agree with your previous speaker that there is going to be a significant impact. Clearly, rising unemployment not only directly impacts those people who are out of work, but also undermines confidence for many other people. So it's clearly a negative impact on the economy. But I think the key thing to stress is that as the economy unlocks, it still will take some time, in the best case scenario, to return to its pre-crisis level. And we probably won't get back to our pre-crisis level where we were, say, back in February or March until towards the end of next year. But even in that scenario, we will not get unemployment back to where it was at the beginning of this year until in 2022. So even in the best case scenario, we have a difficult environment for the next 18 months or so.
Does that presuppose that the jobs that are being lost at the moment will come back because those industries like tourism, like hospitality, like the airlines particularly, those jobs will come back as people come back?
Well, first and foremost, we have to stress that employment in the UK was at a record position at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
So we were in a very good position. I think there's almost three buckets. First, there will be those people who will not be impacted by the virus. Some parts of the service sector have already done very well. And also within that group is those sectors that will return to normal as unlocking takes place, like the car sector today has started to return to normal with some increase in output and health. The second group is those people who will not be able to return to normal because of the vaccine gap. Those people in the comedy sector, the art sector, the whole cultural side, they need to see the furlough scheme extended and further help to help them through this situation.
So the idea of ending in, sorry to interrupt, sorry to interrupt about the third bucket, but the idea of ending the furlough scheme in October then, this is currently the plan, you feel that those businesses and those groups that are lobbying for that to be extended into certain sectors are right to do so?
Yes, absolutely. What we're seeing is that unlocking really will allow many sectors to get back to normal, but while we have a vaccine gap and social distancing in place, for no fault of their own, many sectors cannot return to normal. And the best thing there is to actually see the furlough scheme extended. And if indeed some people are not actually covered properly by the scheme at the moment, the Treasury Subcommittee pointed out 1 to 3 million people are excluded from these schemes. So those areas still need help.
And just very, very finally, does it matter how much the economy and the recovery will be driven by where people work? We've got this drive to get people back into the office. How much of a difference does that actually make?
Well, not only is the recovery in the UK, London leads the recovery, but because London is such a commuter city with 800,000 out of 5.2 million workers commuting in, London is actually going to lag in some parts. So there will be different parts of the economy, different parts of the country that will be impacted more than others. But what we need is the same macro start that gives people confidence, and these measures, which have been good so far, extended where necessary.
Dr. Gerald Hines, your Chief Economic Strategist at Net Wealth, Senior Fellow at Policy Exchange. Let's come on to the welfare aspect of this. If we are going to see many more people left unemployed, how is the welfare system going to cope? Claire McNeil is Associate Director of the Institute for Public Policy Research. Welcome to the programme this morning, Claire. 4 million, potentially was the figure we were given earlier, 4 million people unemployed. How would universal credit deal with that?
Well, the universal credit system has coped relatively well so far, but I think it's right that significant numbers of new people coming onto the system would put it under significant amounts of pressure. So that's even more of a reason to kind of delay the full impact of job losses, and so extending the furlough scheme but reforming it because it needs to encourage people to work at least part-time is a really important part of avoiding the system becoming overwhelmed.
The numbers of people on universal credit, or at least applying for universal credit, have gone up enormously. I mean, it's over 100% now. To what extent have you been surprised or heartened by the way in which the system has coped thus far?
Well, so it's definitely the case that the department has adjusted. It's moved people onto universal credit to help process claims. It's kind of made the system much more flexible. But that is, we've sort of relatively limited so far number of people coming into the system.
Yeah.
And the risk is that as the numbers increase, it's placed under more pressure. But clearly also, as we've heard already from your guests, and there are some people that can't access universal credit, and that's a really big problem for people that can't find support elsewhere.
And you talk about the furlough scheme, and I'll speak to Jonathan Ashworth, the Shadow Health Secretary, about this a bit later on, but the idea of it tapering off rather than having a sort of cliff edge finish, if you will, how long do you think that taper should last for as people search for work elsewhere to try and keep them having money coming in, basically on state support too, whilst also looking for part-time work and other full-time jobs?
Well, we think the really important factor here is that the scheme should be around so long as economic conditions are unstable. And so we've done some analysis
that should be a very, very long time, Claire. People are looking at 2024.
Yes, I think so. So in some sectors, we do expect conditions to improve over a kind of shorter period of time, and there, the scheme does need to be in place to support those workers. But if we look abroad, countries like Germany and France, their equivalent schemes are staying in place until kind of the new year and spring, and so it does need to be in place for longer just to give businesses certainty. We also though need to see a plan for local lockdowns and even a second wave, and it's very unclear from the government as to what its plan will be in the event of those things happening.
Claire McNeil, you're Associate Director at the Institute for Public Policy Research. Many thanks indeed for your time this morning. The figures are, I'm afraid, they sort of take your breath away, to be honest. 112,000 jobs have gone already since the start of lockdown. Just in the last 2 days, we have seen many thousands of jobs announced as being made redundant. There is a statistic in one of the papers this morning that Heathrow Airport could be set to lose 25,000 jobs alone. If you are someone on the furlough scheme right now, are you already making plans to try and find work elsewhere? And on the point about the furlough scheme ending in October, is it right? And how long do we have the furlough scheme in place for, if indeed it is extended beyond October to various areas of the economy, like tourism, like hospitality, like travel, that are going to be severely impacted by this thing for a long time to come? We'll come to some of your thoughts in a few moments' time. 0345 6060 973 is the number. And after the news headlines, the explosion in Beirut, which this morning the breaking news is has killed at least 100 people and injured 4,000 more. Brits too caught up in the blast. Will be live to Lebanon in the next few moments. Tom Swarbrick in for Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC 7:17. News headlines. Simon Conway.
At least 78 people have been killed in a massive explosion in Beirut, which damaged buildings across the Lebanese capital. MPs claim coronavirus spread faster in the UK because of the government's failure to bring in border restrictions sooner. And England's Children's Commissioner says schools should be the last places to be closed in any future lockdowns. The weather, rain across central and northern areas, getting hotter in the south, a high of 27 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. In Boreham Wood, Cranes Way is closed in both directions because of an ongoing police investigation. In Surbiton, the A243 Hook Road remains closed in both directions. That's for the emergency repair works following the burst water main. One lane is closed on the A12 southbound just before the M25 junction where a car has broken down. And all the trains of Anti-West Coast and London North Western Railway services still delayed by about 15 minutes between Euston and Milton Keynes Central because of the ongoing issues with the overhead wires.
This is LBC.
At Halfords, we're here to get you where you want to be. We can replace your battery at over 700 stores and garages, or even at your home or work with our mobile experts, so you can enjoy an engine that starts first time, every time. Start enjoying the open road again.
Are we nearly there yet?
From battery replacements to tyre fittings to MOTs, there really is no job too big or too small. Halfords, for life's journeys.
This is LBC.
Hello, I'm Andy Byford. I'm the new Commissioner of Transport for London, and I want to tell you what we're doing to help get London moving again. With more people returning to us every day, we are making sure that stations, tubes and buses are cleaner than ever. We're using hospital-grade disinfectant to clean all surfaces daily. We're also providing over 1,000 hand sanitizer stations for customers. We are now back to good service levels on tubes, buses and trains, although we do ask that you please plan ahead and still travel outside the busier times if you can to help with social distancing. I'm also grateful to the vast majority of you who are looking out for each other by wearing a face covering. Police and enforcement teams are working to ensure everyone does this. We are doing all we can to keep things safe, clean and organised. After all, we're here to help all Londoners. To find out more, search TfL Restart Plan. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Lockdown has taught us the days of needing employees to always work from the office are over. But can they seamlessly communicate and collaborate no matter where they're located? Discover the power of cloud communications at Smarter Working Now, a free-to-attend virtual expo taking place online this September. Register now for your chance to win an HP ZBook, then join us remotely on the day. Go to smarterworking.uk. smarterworking.uk.
For face masks and hand sanitizers to protect against coronavirus.
ammonium nitrate, which exploded shockingly in the city of Beirut, that has killed at least, we're told this morning, at least 100 people, injured 4,000 people, and devastated a city that was already in the midst of an economic crisis as well as a coronavirus crisis. Live to Beirut in just a few moments. Talking about jobs as well, the number of jobs that have already been made redundant, already gone. We're looking at 112,000 jobs now. Since the lockdown came in, nearly 4,500 just in the last 48 hours. Dixon's Carphone Warehouse, Pizza Express, Hayes Travel. If you work for any of those businesses that are shedding jobs, I want to hear from you, please, about how it is you're going to get back up on your feet, if indeed you think you can, on your own, or whether government support is needed, whether this furlough scheme should be extended past October. We'll bring you more details on that in just a moment. No consensus about what the lead story is on the front page of the morning papers this morning. The Guardian talking about a column that Sakir Starmer has written for them. The Labour leader Starmer, fix virus testing or face long, bleak winter, the Labour leader says. We'll speak to the Shadow Health Secretary a bit later, and we'll get details of what it is local councils are doing in taking matters into their own hands and ditching the government's national test and trace scheme and just going for their own local one. Not a ringing endorsement, is it? Daily Mail, the real health cost of lockdown. Doctors warn of devastating toll on non-virus patients, as COVID now to blame for only 2% of all deaths. 2% is still pretty high. The Daily Telegraph, close pubs and shops to reopen schools. This is coming from the Children's Commissioner. Says education must be the priority in event of a second wave. That faced with a decision about closing pubs or shops or schools, Anne Longfield says that absolutely the government must make every effort to keep those schools open. The Sun, no Mansi Panky. Now, I don't get it either, but it's something to do with the local lockdown in Manchester, meaning that singletons can't meet up to, Front page of the Metro, open border led to COVID killing more. MP's grave error to drop checks as infections surge. This is a report by the Home Affairs Select Committee about what wasn't happening at the borders in March to prevent the income of the coronavirus. We'll have much more detail on that after the news at 8. On the Times, the BBC TV licence backlash is growing. Pensioners revolt over end of free TV licence. The BBC hires army of 800 agents to prevent chaos. The agents of non-chaos, hired by the BBC to try and go after people who won't be getting that free TV licence anymore. Not a lot of people are happy about that for obvious reasons. The Daily Mirror on a campaign for PC Harper's killers to receive this longer jail sentence, which is now being looked at by the Attorney General. Lock up PC's killers for longer, says his mother. And on the Eye, PPE chaos revealed. Medics urge action to prevent repeat of turmoil as Eye investigation reveals desperate NHS attempts to find life-saving kit. All the papers, pretty much, the majority of the papers carrying those astonishing pictures from Beirut of that explosion will be there in just a moment. Not before, though, we've spoken to Malcolm in Shrewsbury on the subject of those jobs. Hi, Malcolm.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm very well, sir. You're furloughed at the moment, as I understand.
Yeah, absolutely, as are so many other people. The point I want to make, Tom, is this. We all know governments have no money. They only have what we give them. So you've got taxation, national insurance, and then the difference between what we give them and what they actually need, they go out and borrow. So you've got all these people on furlough. I've been on furlough 17 weeks. I've been volunteering. Give me something to do, get me out of the house. But in the end, the government has got to pay people. So let's say at the end of October, right, no more money, no more furlough. So universal credit, that's where people are going to go.